And whoops, record. And you know what, Tanya? I am going to make you a co-host, if you don't mind, since my sidekick hasn't showed up, just in case I get kicked off. Occasionally that happens. So everybody, welcome. If you're on LinkedIn or whatever, dialing in. I'm Margaret Ann, and I am from Ottawa Connects You. And we're really excited to be hearing from Courtney Whitebay shortly. She's going to be presenting on, and here goes my notes, focusing on your body to build your business. And we were having a little chat before we came online. So I think this is very key to a lot of us. And it's a great way to start in, because I think as entrepreneurs, if anybody's listening, you can see how that focusing on your body maybe can get a little side strayed these days, especially since the pandemic. I don't know, maybe somebody, not saying any names, is sitting too much or something. So maybe we're gonna get some great tips today. But before we do, I'd like to welcome you to this call. This is our Connect You keynote, and it's something new that we've actually been doing it for a couple of years now, since the pandemic started, but we're taking it to a different level. So I'm actually looking for people that are starting a business, maybe have a side hustle, or maybe launching a product or a service. Maybe you've got an event that you want to talk about. So that's a new service that we're offering. There's a small fee. You can decide if you would like a recording for your website. It will be live streamed, and it's just to help you get your word out. And here's what I find sometimes: it'll stop you from procrastinating, because many people come on this show and we are solopreneurs, and you have good intentions, but it's so easy to put it off. So there's nothing like having made a commitment, put a little money in the game, and actually have a page that's showcasing you to light that fire maybe under your butt and keep you on track. So it's all meant to have fun, not do it alone, make this wonderful world of entrepreneurship just so much easier. Because I've been doing it for, I'm not going to say because it's a long time, I'm a lifer, and I've always had fun. So I've been in and out of brick and mortar businesses and online businesses. And the one thing that keeps bringing me back doing this is the connections, meeting so many great people from all over the world, so much so that maybe some of you are out there, I go, hey, well, now I know somebody in New York, Courtney's down there. You just never know where you're going to get to meet somebody and how maybe you're going to bump into them in the future. So thank you all for taking the time and coming here today. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go around the room, give you all an opportunity to introduce yourself. And I'm also going to suggest copying and pasting your links into the chat, because not only is this an opportunity to hear a great presentation from Courtney, but it's also networking on the side. So just remember, every place you go is an opportunity to network. And what is that? It's building relationships and listening and finding those common threads that connects us. And that's why I really like the name Ottawa Connects You, because I go, what connects you? So on that note, Tanya, would you mind starting us off?
Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya Hewitt, and I have a company called Beyond Safety Compliance, getting organizations to realize that compliance is only the minimum bar, that if they start looking at, as Margaret Ann had said, looking at relationships in the workplace, trying to get people to understand each other more as people, as opposed to just automatons in the workplace doing tasks. Looking at core values. I was just on a webinar where the mayor of Barrie talked about how he guides his executive team according to core values, notwithstanding the fact that they are all individuals and are helping him become a better person, but they are very focused on making sure that they don't stray from their core values in any of the services they deliver, which is fantastic to hear, that a lot of places are starting to get into the idea that if we can really start focusing on how we can get strategically ahead with values, we can actually start to get into much healthier workplaces. So that's me, Tanya Hewitt from Beyond Safety Compliance. How does your work look?
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Tanya. And how about Laura?
I'm Laura Wilcox. I'm in the Ottawa area. I work in mental health and addictions. So I am looking to do an online coaching and counseling in the very beginning stages of that. And also founded a nonprofit called Startup Collective to support people's recovery from sex trafficking and other sexual exploitation, focusing on somatic experiencing, so through movement and healing, as well as skills development and employment opportunities.
Great. Well, wonderful to have you here, Laura. Nice, and good luck with your new business. How about Manuela?
Well, thank you for having me. This is such a beautiful initiative, and I'm very happy to be here and hear of your work. I am Manuela. I am in Ottawa, and I am a health and wellness coach. I basically take people from blah to aha. And I am working with people on their physical wellness, on their spiritual wellness, as in purpose and goals and vision for themselves, as well as emotional and basic self-care. This is what I do. I started about 2 years ago. I am certifying officially, finishing my studies next year in February. And I am excited to hear that there are so many people interested here in body work and coaching. So exciting.
Cool.
Looking forward to hear more of you.
Perfect. Glad to have you here, Manuela.
Thank you.
And we'll move over to Mayank.
Hey, everyone. Oh no, I'm not at my place. We were watching Poland versus Mexico. I'm at my buddy's place in downtown. You know, it's happening. It's soccer. It's my thing. So I'm not at my office right now. So this is Mayank. I'm from Ottawa. I run a health and wellness business. I'm also a health and wellness coach, and I've been doing this for, 2 years as in my business, and then 7-8 years in the game. And I like to make people fall in love with fitness and enjoy the process rather than keep worrying about the numbers on the scale. And I work and I coach people in Canada and US. Yeah, it's a fun game. I'm an ex-Movati athletic employee. So if somebody's from Ottawa and they know the club, I worked there for 2 years, the training arts location. So yeah, I'm a soccer player, and that's why I'm here, watching the game. And there was nobody won. It was a draw. I wanted Poland to win. But anyways.
Good for you. I love it. Remote working, eh, Mayank?
Well, I can work. I'm on the map.
That's right. Perfect. Well, glad to have you back here too, Mayank. Okay, so our next, I've been putting a couple links. Don't forget to put your links into the chat, and you can check our website and see the other services we offer. But right now, I am really excited to introduce you to Courtney Whitebay, who is an exercise physiologist currently living and working in the beautiful Hudson Valley of New York, USA. Her areas of focus are somatic business coaching, virtual personal training, and in-home retreats. As an exercise physiologist, she started her career in healthcare before creating her company, Hudson Valley Peak Performance, where she offers her one-of-a-kind SBC programming, a blend of personal training and strategic business wellness coaching. Courtney's passion is being present and available for her clients as they walk through their journey. She is a mother of 3 and loves singing, making jewelry, traveling, and going on adventures with her friends and family. Please help me welcome Courtney Whitebay.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, back in my pre all of this life, I loved to make jewelry, and now my kids are haranguing me to do it for Christmas this year with them and teach them how to do it. It's a whole thing. So hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Courtney Whitebay. I own Hudson Valley Peak Performance, and I am going through some rebranding right now, so you might see that change. Let's see, I have a little slide. I'm like semi-prepared with a slideshow, so I'm going to see if I can share my screen and do this quickly. Nope, that's not it. There we go. So somatic business coaching, actually, you know what, a lot of times I like to ask people what somatic means to them. And I did this at another call a couple of days ago. So actually, I'm going to ask that again, since there are at least 3 other people, maybe even everybody here has an idea of what somatic means to them. And I guarantee you, my version is probably a little bit different. So if you want to pop on real quick and let me know what that means to you, it would be cool to hear like other people's definitions. I just find that in our field, you know, there are so many different names for things and interpretations. So who wants to go first? Mayank, you're not muted. What does somatic mean to you?
I don't even know what that means.
Good answer. Laura, what about you?
I would say it's about what is the body speaking, the wisdom held within our bodies, and the power to heal through feeling and noticing sensation. And that could be through movement, could be through creating jewelry, like you said, and connectedness.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. What about you, Manuela?
I am 100% with Laura. That's exactly what I was going to say. Beautiful.
Cool. Tanya?
Yeah, I'm aligned with what Laura had said as well. It's being aware of what your body is telling you and being able to interpret the signals and having a way to be able to use these signals to be able to guide yourself through life.
See, the Google says relating to the body, especially as distinct from the mind. So that means you're not connecting the body and the mind here. You're just talking about the body.
Well, no, I don't think you can really. Well, my belief is that you cannot separate the body and the mind, but it's fun because somebody always goes to Google. I kind of love that.
Well, I mean, you gotta, if I don't know, I have to look it up. You know, I don't know the meaning of this word. I've never, so that's why that. It makes sense. It makes sense. I don't believe that body and mind can be distinct. They're together. They go together.
Yeah. So soma really means body, like the root word is just body. But when I'm using it in terms of like somatic coaching, somatic business coaching, and the way you guys are using it as well, is really going into the body to help heal the mind in some sort of way. If you heal the body, you heal the mind. If you heal the mind, you heal the body. And it's just inextricably, connected and related. The way that I use it is in an effort to get people moving, people who are in business, people who own their own businesses, people who have maybe gotten to a certain level of success in their business and kind of started to look around them. And you guys, so many of you are also health coaches here, so I know you'll understand where somebody looks around themselves and they're like, holy shit, like I have all of these things, or I have all of this success, but I forgot I was here. I didn't even realize that I forgot that I was actually here. Here I am working in and on my business and serving my clients and my customers and doing all of this, but I forgot about me. And so what I do is I take a personal training session and I combine that with business coaching, consultation, framework, and conversation. So that is sort of, to me, what it means. And this is just like a little snapshot. The program that I created, I call Empowered Living. And it goes through, for me, 6 or 7 pillars of health. In the beginning, I like to help everybody create their sphere of influence or hone their sphere of influence. Because if we do not have space mentally, emotionally, physically, we cannot do our work, whether that is business work or that is physical work. I do all of my programs online. So I want people to make sure that they have enough space to do the program and to then move on to the next section, which is going to be building your goals and getting in touch with your desires. And I say desires, and that is really important because the desire, I think, is the root. That is like the main thing for you. And a lot of times we're told in our culture that, desiring something is selfish. It's not selfish. That is how we know we are on our journey. We are starting to live our purpose. So not just like your little goals, those are important too, but I want you to connect in with your soul deep desires, the things that are driving you to do what you're doing, right? What is your big why? And as all of the health coaches here know, you have to know the why in order to really create any sustainable change, right? But going back to to creating your space, if you have people who are putting you down, who are naysayers, who are like, oh, you're never going to get that off the ground. Oh, that's too much money. Nobody's going to pay you that. Or whatever it is, that's going to make it really difficult for you to get to your desires and set your goals and have that really concentrated time and space and mental and physical energy to do what it is that you want to do. Of course, we all can do that, but it's always better to come from a positive energy than a negative energy. So clearing your sphere of influence, clearing and creating your space and setting boundaries is really about putting yourself first and making sure that your energy is staying up so that you can accomplish your goals. Next, I love to work with teams as well as one-on-ones. Right now, I'm launching a group, which is really fun because we get to actually, similar as here, we get to go around the room, hear about people's wins. We get to go around the room and hear about people's goals, and we get to see what they need help in. And this is like the beauty of combining personal training or group personal training with coaching, because you get to relax your body in a way that is also very stimulating. So that might sound like counter or contrary, but it's really not. When you start to move your body, you get the blood flow, you get more ideas, you start to relax your body in terms of that you're not holding on to that mental stress that's somatically living in your body, right? That's the opening part. And then the vigorous movement is what gets things going around. And then you have this mental space where ideas can start to flow in. And this is, I think, what makes it so productive in business, that when you add in an exercise routine with people, without people, whatever it is, in a program by yourself, it doesn't matter. But when you start to move your body, you are starting to open up. You're starting to oxygenate, you are starting to let ideas in. And this is where the genius starts to happen. You become less judgmental. You don't talk as negatively to yourself. You're not going to look as negatively upon other people as well. That's why I think it's such a cool idea to have a team, like a business team, actually do this together, like an executive team, where it's like, okay, well, I'm having trouble doing this part of my work because I'm not getting this other thing from this other person. So, toss the ball over there. How can we make sure that those things are connecting at the right time so everybody can get their work done at the right time and nobody's waiting on anybody else? I mean, have that conversation when you're just sitting around drinking caffeinated coffee and everybody's waiting for lunch. Somebody's going to bite somebody else's head off, right? But if you're moving, if you're hydrating, if you're taking care of your body, if you're kind of like, literally or literally or not literally throwing the ball to the next person and being like, oh, catch, I need to do this. Okay, catch, I need to do that. It becomes more fun. It becomes more playful. It becomes something where you're starting to work together as a cohesive team rather than saying like, well, I can't do this because he or she, yada, yada, yada. It becomes, okay, cool. So this is my job. This is how I see it. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I need from the next person. How can I get that most efficiently? So it just helps you open up conversation, helps you open up ideas, all sorts of stuff. And then you get to take action on all of that. So when I go through a session, I like to start with an intention setting, because we all have something that we want to do or talk about, whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing, emotional thing, or a business thing. We all have something that we want to work on. So maybe that's just simply being present, whatever it is, being present in the session, being present in a meeting, being present with your family when you get home from work, whatever it is. That's like a little bit of grounding in the beginning. And then we go through and you get to brain dump. You're warming up, you start to brain dump, we start to celebrate some successes and get some good vibes going, get our energy up, right? And then we can get into the nitty gritty of it. And that's when we start to work a little bit harder. That's when we start to like really think about like, okay, here are my goals, or here are my frustrations, and how am I going to solve those? And then after that's all done, you get to have a little list of things that you've already thought about. I encourage people actually, and I know this is a little bit unusual, but I encourage them to have a notebook when they're working out. I encourage them to have a notebook, pen and paper, whatever it is you like to write with, so that you can stop during your session and you can jot something down real quick. Stopping in between a set or even mid set, for all I care if it's that important. Sometimes it's just that important. You know, you just have to stop and write it down. You can always pick it back up again. You can always repeat that set. You know what I mean? You're not losing anything by taking the time and writing down some genius idea that you have. And then at the end of your session, of your workout session, you have actionable items that you can take and implement into your business as soon as you're done. Or you can talk to your boss about as soon as you're done, or you can implement with your team, like as soon as you're done, whatever it is. And that, I think, is another really pivotal point, that when you go into this workout, not only are you having, I like to say, you're turning me time into green time, because not only are you then creating a healthy environment for yourself as an individual, not only are you de-stressing, right? Like if you're stressed out, your work is not going to be as good. Exercise is going to help you de-stress. If you are eating well, that's another component. I don't do meal plans or anything like that. There are people for that. That is not me. But, you know, pay attention to what you're eating. Journal it. How does it feel when you're making it? Is it a slog? Do you absolutely hate making it? Well, maybe outsource that, or make something different, or maybe your partner likes to cook. Come out with some idea where it's not draining your energy. If you're ever draining your energy, it's just not a great place to be. Or maybe it's because you don't like it. You're making it and you freaking hate it and you do not want to put it in your mouth, and you're making it and you're like, I'm making this because so-and-so said this was healthy and I hate eating it. And then you go to eat it and you also still hate it. All right, you should enjoy it. Enjoy it. This is nourishment. This is the basis of everything, of every cell in our body, right? Like if every cell in our body is consumed through anger, frustration, and hatred, well, like that's living in us, right? We don't want to put the building blocks in with that feeling in mind, right? So I like to ask people, are you happy with how you're eating? Does it make you feel good? An hour after you're done, or 10 minutes after you're done, do you feel energized, or do you feel sluggish? Do you have to run to the bathroom like urgently? It's probably not the right food for you. I have a friend who is the biggest teddy bear you'll ever meet. I've known him for ages and ages and ages, and we used to live on Long Island together. And there's a store called Carvel Ice Cream down there. And it's just like an ice cream shop. Like you can get the Carvel ice cream cakes in any grocery store or whatever, but it only on Long Island, I think, like it is an actual ice cream shop. And so he would go in every time he saw one, he would go in and he would get a vanilla ice cream cone. And now I'm telling you, I used to row crew with this guy, which is really hard work. He used to coach. We coached together, you know, like in college, and people can be real not nice people. Never once did I ever see him lose his temper. Well, apparently he used to go and get these Carvel ice creams, and every single time he would eat it and he would start to get road rage on his way home. And I was like, gee, Rob, that's really unusual. And it took him years, if not decades, to realize that why this super sweet, cuddly teddy bear, nice person was a horrible, raging maniac on the way home from Carvel ice cream is because he had a low-grade stomach ache from the ice cream. And it was turning him into a monster. And, you know, if that is happening, he didn't know. He didn't know for decades. He didn't know. But once he figured it out, that was a huge turning point for him and for his wife. So anytime he starts to get mean or crotchety now, she's like, hey, honey, do you have a stomach ache? So if you're eating something and it's making you not feel good, like really check in with yourself. We don't do this as a society. We don't check in and see like, okay, we're eating food and it's making us feel good. We're eating food and it's making us feel sick to our stomach. We're eating food and it's making me feel tired. And that's not usual. That's not normal. Maybe I should change that. So that is like observation without judgment, I think is huge. And I always want to instill that for everybody. Just observe how you're feeling. Whatever it is, observe the space that you're in. Observe how your friends and family are speaking to you. Observe how your colleagues are interacting with you. Observe these things, step away from it just a little bit, create a little bit of space. And this is one part that I really think is so important and I absolutely love. If you need additional help with something like setting boundaries, that is a perfect time to introduce a colleague who does therapy or boundary work or coaching specifically around that. Same thing with nutrition. If you find that you need help above and beyond being just observant about how you feel and what you're taking in, that's a beautiful time to bring in a nutritionist or a dietitian or whatever it is that fits that specific bill, right? So these are all ways that we can support our bodies that are going to make our business or our team just absolutely more efficient and more productive, happier. And if you're happier, everything is going to fall into line. There's something else that there's some CDs that I've been listening to. I know, like, I don't know when they were made that they're still called CDs. Obviously, I'm just listening to them online. I don't know when they were recorded. But it's I don't know how to say it. It's a kind of mindset work, basically the law of attraction, how to use the law of attraction in your life and in your business. And it's these higher up millionaire, billionaire type people, executives, business owners. And, he's like, the people who are in my shoes, the billionaires, the executives, the people who are owning these companies and basically running the world, the people who are in my shoes, we don't think about how this is going to happen. We think about, okay, like, how do I feel? Do I believe that this can get worked out? Like, do I believe in my center, in my heart, in my being in a positive way of the outcome of this? Yes. Okay. So I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know it is going to happen. And it's harnessing that, again, we're coming back to somatics, that energy, because if your energy that lives in your body is at a high vibration, then you are going to be able to manifest these other things to happen. So of course there are details and legwork that has to happen in order to do that, but they don't know that ahead of time. They have the belief, and the belief doesn't just come from their mind. The belief comes from their body as well. So being able to have that feeling in your body, that positivity, that energy, that vibration that is always on the up and up, exercise is going to help with that. Good food is going to help with that. De-stressing is going to help with that. So meditation is going to help with that. Sleep is another really, really important one. There is nothing that will turn a nice person into a mean person like the lack of sleep, right? Right? Like, there just isn't. And from all the research that I've read, an 8-hour sleep opportunity, absolute minimum. There are far fewer people in this world who can actually survive on less than 8 hours of sleep. They think they can, but the reality of the situation is that it's like 0.01% or something crazy who can actually survive and function optimally on a less than 8-hour sleep opportunity a night. So make sure you get your sleep. So I think these are all things that you guys already know about, which is really great. We have a really cohesive group right here. The last one that I do like to touch on is reducing your toxic load, reducing the toxic load that's in your body and around you. So anything that's in the air or on your skin or your hair, it's going to also go into your body. Your skin being the biggest organ, it's going to absorb stuff. So if you are putting anything in, on, or around your body that does not belong there, that your body does not know how to efficiently process, it is going to start to bog down your filtration systems. It's going to start to disrupt different hormone patterns and pathways, and you're going to start to come out with different things that are happening that should not be happening. Your endocrine system can be disrupted, your all that's like the big system, right? And then everything kind of trickles down. So you want to make sure that everything that you're putting in, on, and around your body is supportive of your body, similar to food. Like, think about your hair care products, your skin products, your dish soap, your cleaning products, your laundry detergent, hope you don't use dryer sheets. If you do use dryer sheets, stop. They're like the number one most toxic thing in most anybody's house. All of that stuff gets absorbed through your skin or through your nose or through the air and into your body. And if your body doesn't know how to process it, it's going to start to deteriorate. You're going to start to have funky things start to happen. Maybe some autoimmune stuff could pop up, or maybe eczema would pop up. That's a really common one. So you just want to make sure that you don't have all of these things bogging your system down. And those are really insidious because you don't think about it. Right? There are some great apps. There's one called Think Dirty. And there's a new one that I don't know the name of, but there's one called Think Dirty. And then there's ewg.org, O-R-G. And both of those places you can actually look up and Think Dirty and whatever, there's another app out there. You can actually scan barcodes and see what the toxicity level of it is. So that I think is really interesting. And I know it's a little bit of a sidebar, but it's also still really important in making sure that your body is functioning optimally, because if it's not, nor is your business. So I think, I don't know how much time we have left, and I want to give time for questions or anything like that. I could probably talk forever.
No, it's a great job. No, Courtney, you can continue going. It's you've got lots of time.
Oh, I do? Holy cow. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say. I tried to go really quickly.
No problem. Well, here's, if you want to, I'll tell you what, how about if you unshare your screen then, and if you want to do some audience participation, then you can do that, have a little round table.
Cool.
I'm just going to say thank you very much. I thought it was great insight. And I know once you said, oh, it's nothing anybody hasn't heard before, but you know, you made a little segue to that, and I'm going, but it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if we're all doing the same thing. We always hear it a different way from a different person, and we pick up a different nugget. And, you just notice that throughout your life, you hear the same thing. And I used to say, somebody said, oh, I went to that conference already, or I already went to that seminar. I said, yes, but this time, if you learn from the first one, you're going to be listening for the next nugget. So it'll be a totally different presentation, because you'll pick up something totally different. So I loved it. I thought that was great advice. And you hit home on that toxic stuff. I think I'm going to look at that Think Dirty app. I just really hope that, the young ones, like, the 20-year-old, like starting out, there's so much more education towards that now. But for years, what I never understood, if it's not good for us, why are they making it?
Oh, well, I know I could go real conspiracy theory on you for that. But I do want to just note too that, like, anything that you wouldn't eat, maybe you don't put on your body. And of course, there's some caveats there, clearly, like, you're not really going to eat your shampoo. But if you can, like, there's bar shampoo now. I use doTERRA for a lot of this stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with doTERRA essential oils and things like that. I use their stuff for almost everything. They did just come out with bar shampoo and conditioner. So, like, you could almost eat, you wouldn't want to, but like, it's just the products are clean enough that, if your kid got a hold of it and stuck it in their mouth, you really don't have to call poison control unless you just want peace of mind. Right. I remember one of my kids, they were like 2 or 3, maybe like 2-ish years old, dancing on the table, sucking on a tube of toothpaste. And I freaked out and called poison control. And I think it was probably doTERRA, which does not have fluoride in it. And so I talked to her, and she's like, well, does it have fluoride in it? I was like, no, it's this, da, 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 da. And she's like, okay, well, then in that case, they're fine. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to get a stomach ache. You know what I mean? And she's like, if there's fluoride in it, I would have been really, like, you would have had to go to the emergency room and get their stomach pumped or whatever, just in case, like, I was like, oh my God. So, like, just like, and I don't know, a lot of this stuff, the reducing the toxic load stuff came about for me when I became a mom, or like even before I became a mom, because I started to see, like, I've always been really sensitive to scents and smells. And they will actually, like, I actually get sick from, like, it feels like I'm sick. I guess it's an allergy, but like my eyes get puffy, my throat gets puffy. I feel like I'm coming down with like a strep throat or the flu or something like that. And it can knock me out for 12, 24, 48 hours, depending on the exposure to it. So, like, it's really, I just can't handle it. So I was like, well, if I can't handle it, then my baby's not going to be able to handle it. So then I started making a lot of my own stuff. I'll use Dr. Bronner's and add my essential oils into it for either the properties or the scents, depending on what it is I'm doing or making,
right.
And I just kind of carried that on with me. And as I've gone through my journey as an entrepreneur, as a well care provider, I'm finding out more and more and more that more people are having the same or similar issues, or that they want to have products that they feel safer using. there's whole recalls on Tylenol now. There's stuff like, and that was the only pain medication we were told we could use as pregnant women. And now there's like lawsuits out against it. You know what I mean? So I'm always like, for food and for products, as close to natural, as close to nature as you can get it is always going to be the safest way to do it. You know, if you're looking at something super processed, it's always a little bit iffier. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there are a lot of, they call it greenwashed brands now. I don't know if you've come across the greenwash brands. So like Mrs. Myers.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, please don't roll around and yell in the hallway. And here they are. But like, so Mrs. Myers, if you look on Think Dirtier or one of those apps, you'll see that their plain unscented stuff usually is like around 1, 2, or 3, being 1 or 0, whatever the scale is, being good, 10 being really bad. You start to go in at anything scented, their lemon verbena, their lavender, whatever it is, you're like 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh.
So they're natural brands, and it's called Mrs. Myers. So you think probably, right, that some sweet middle-aged woman, you know, empty nester or something like that, she'd been doing this for her whole life with her kids, making her own soaps and stuff, and then she decided to make a brand, and then somebody bought it out, which is basically what happened with Pepperidge Farms, to my knowledge. There was a mom, she had a kid who had a lot of allergies, and she would bake her own bread. And then that company got bought, and then now you have Pepperidge Farm or whatever, and it's like disgusting and full of just gross stuff. But like Mrs. Myers was like never a person. It was just a think tank got together and was like, oh, this sounds like a name that somebody would trust.
Because it makes you feel good. My mom told me, so it must be all right. And you know what, Courtney, I'm just going to say, that was one of the things out of your presentation too, I really took to, it's about, we live so fast lives right now, right? We sometimes just don't take time to smell the coffee, smell the roses, have something, actually see how it makes us feel, and just be conscious. Was a lot of your message. But I'm just going to, is there anybody else got any comments or feedback, or do you want to share something with Courtney?
Yeah, Courtney, go ahead, Maya.
Hey, very nice to see you.
Yeah,
good to see you.
Time no see.
Bernie,
I know.
Bernie, go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Courtney, so you covered the cosmetic side of the fence. Does Think Dirty also cover the food side of the fence too?
You know, that's a good question. Food. I'm not sure.
I came across a gent who was saying if it wasn't food before the 1900s, don't bother eating it. If it was food, and he had another caveat. He says if it wasn't eaten a lot, then don't eat it a lot. So maybe that's chocolate, which might not fare so well at Valentine's. But you know, he was remarking anything that's been processed since is not typically good for you. And then I came across another gentleman that says there are 2 types of milk, and one is more for cows that produce more milk versus less quantity but more quality in the milk. And then it goes on from there. So do you have anything that kind of feeds into that, pardon the pun, feeds into that?
Yeah, so I would say generally speaking, that really makes a lot of sense to me, and I would agree with that. You know, a lot of times for me working with people, I just try to like step them down off of stuff. So if they're eating a lot of cold cuts like Oscar Mayer ham, say, it's like, okay, well, like, can you start buying Applegate Farms ham? And then after they buy Applegate Farms, which is organic, then it's like, okay, well, can you start cooking your own, slicing your own, like chicken breast or whatever it is, and just start like getting back exactly like into the more natural frame of things. And not that ham is necessarily the worst, but I guess the nitrates aren't so great. The other thing, well, other couple of things that like popped into my head when you were saying that, other than like, yeah, eat as organic as you can, eat as free range as you can, eat as local as you can, eat as old school as you can. Don't eat it out of a can.
That's good. That's really good. That's well done.
Is that just we don't have access to as wide a variety of foods as we may be used to, and our farming practices are not as good. So I will also often suggest high quality supplementation for people, because the nutrients in the soil aren't really there. We have the GMO, we have the seeds that are like, you know, generations of breeding of these seeds is just kind of subpar. Like for instance, did you know that broccoli comes in purple? And it also, there's like probably at least 10 different varieties of green and purple broccoli that you can get, if not more. Cauliflower is naturally white or purple or yellow. That we know, I do see in the stores occasionally. Brussels sprouts come in purple. Asparagus can be purple, green, or white. And just like
Wow.
all of these things, like I saw them in the store for the first time. I was like, who did that? Like, who thought that they could mess with genetics and turn my cauliflower orange? Like, but it's not, it's actually an heirloom variety. You know, tomatoes can be green, like fully ripe and green. They can be yellow, they can be orange, they can be red, they can almost be black. Like, you know, all of these colors in the rainbow. Same with peppers. They're the purple peppers, brown peppers, red, yellow, orange, green. So we just don't really have as much access to that either. So just keeping in mind that that is generally the case. And unless you're getting from like a really close organic co-op near you, you probably will need some supplementation, but do make sure you do your research on that, or that you're getting it from somebody that you really trust. In terms of, the other thing, so in terms of even still eating like you did in the early 1900s, think about how your food is raised, and now moving off of vegetables and onto meat. Beef specifically. So factory raised beef, all beef has omegas in it, which I don't like, I never really thought of before, but I mean, I have for a while now, but like growing up, that was not a thing. Even in my early 20s, like I was like, what? No, that's not beef's role in our nutrition, but it does. And I don't ever remember this because I'm not a big nutrition person, like in terms of detail. But your omega-3s and 6s are supposed to be balanced in one way. There's supposed to be more of one than the other. Well, in the factory raised beef, it's the opposite. So your 3s are too high and your 6s are too low, or vice versa. Whereas if you have pasture raised, humanely raised beef, they're in balance the way that they should be, and they are quite good for your body. You are now getting the nutrients and the omegas that you need from that animal source that you're not going to get. You're actually going to get pro-inflammatory versions of that in the factory raised food. So even though you might be eating the food like you were in the early 1900s, the quality of it is not good. And you really are what you eat. You know, these are the building blocks that create every single cell in our body. Every single cell creates every single system. So if you're going to eat vegetables or meats, particularly that are raised inhumanely, that are raised using synthetics, and the other thing that drives me nuts, and maybe it's just me, but it drives me nuts that I just read today, I was going through my freezer. I try to get like my meat as humanely raised as possible and organic, whatever. And on the thing, it says it was pork. Forgive me for still eating meat. And it said, fed all vegetarian feed. Pigs are not vegetarians. Chickens are not vegetarians. So that tells me that this is actually a subpar product for my body. Because if you're not feeding the animal its natural foods, then they're going to be imbalanced. It's like when people try to feed cats vegan for their whole lives, the cats die. You know, it's really sad and unfortunate, but like you have to have the right building blocks and the right concentrations. And if you're feeding omnivores vegetarian only, then there's a disconnect there. There's something there. And I don't know what the implications are of that at this time, but it's just,
It's interesting you say that, Courtney, because, you know, I got my take on meat. That's why the spice companies make so much money these days, because I cooked for years. And, you know, back in the day, if you were eating in the 1900s, meat just tasted differently. It did. And if most people ate real meat today, they probably wouldn't eat it. And especially pork, because they go, oh my gosh, what does that taste? Because really pork and half of it, they all taste the same anymore. Like, I mean, there's really not that taste. So if you actually get farm raised, some people actually think it's not good because they've never had, like, you know, real fed beef. Just like deer and stuff up here, you know, they'll eat the pine needles. So I never liked venison because it always tasted like pine needles. Well, now they eat the corn in the field, so now they're just as much as they taste like beef, you know. So it's kind of like you are what you eat. So I guess if you could represent the fact that there's like fact that we are what we eat, we just have to be more conscious, like, you know, going back to your original, like, just be conscious of what we do, but we just seem to let that slide, no problem, eh?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most dangerous or most insidious things that we deal with, where, you know, like in this day and age, is that, like, you know, marketing wise, to say that these are all vegetarian fed, like, I have chickens. We've got like 20 something chickens in our backyard right now, taking over everything and ruining our gardens. And you know, like, I've seen them try to eat snakes before, which is a little bit unnerving, but they do. So, like, you know, and you can't feed a chicken all vegetarian feed and say that this is the best possible chicken ever. Like, it's not. Not.
Mayank, you've got a comment or question for Courtney. Go ahead.
No, I think Tanya had her hand up.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I missed you, Tanya. Your hand's so light, I didn't see it there. Okay, Tanya, you go first.
Okay, well, Mayank actually was before me. But anyway, I just want to say that I echo a lot of what you're saying right now, because I went to a conference a few years ago where a journalist was really interested in food, and he went to Kellogg's, I guess, and he was interested in having, you know, good cornflakes, like, you know, salt, sugar-free cornflakes. And they were like, absolutely. So they dressed him in, you know, Tyvek suit and everything. And this was, he's a journalist, so this was all recorded and filmed and stuff. And he ate these cornflakes and spit it out and couldn't stomach it. And, you know, the answer is that we have had such processed foods for so long that for generations we haven't actually tasted what this actually tastes like. I can remember when Campbell's had ads on television of one of the, you know, food engineers being in, and this is how much salt has been removed from our foods. And Campbell's salt-free soups were on the, you know, available on shelves for 2 months because nobody bought them, because we are so conditioned to the, you know, the way that we have eaten things. And I mean, I know that you didn't want to go so far on meat, Courtney, but I really would like to get people to realize that our agricultural systems that we have right now are unsustainable. They can't just go back to the way they were in 1900. There's a fantastic series on TVO. Anybody who lives in Ontario, go and watch this series, Eat Me or Try Not to. It's fantastic. And in there, they said, you know, a lot of people are looking back to, you know, 1870, and they showed what you ate in 1870, you know. So you'd have rotten apples and, you know, like, you know, mouse infested corn, and you'd have, like, this is what they dealt with. So we are getting better, but we can't do agriculture the way we've been doing it. We can't continue to eat meat at the rate that we're eating it. We can't just go back to some kind of normal that everybody thinks was just okay to do. Right. We need to start changing this stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have a friend who's a professor at Allegheny College in Pennsylvania, and she works specifically in food and nutrition for children mostly. And she teaches the global health classes there. And they did an analysis of, what is it called? The they take a bunch of research and they do one research paper on like 10 research papers. They bring it all together. I forget what that's called. And
Systematic review.
Okay, cool. And so they did that, and they did like, you know, if you went all vegan, if everybody went vegan, you would have to cut down so much land in order to grow so many crops that you would actually devastate the landscape. Not to mention, and this is what I think a lot of people don't understand either, not to mention that in order to clear that much land, you are killing the habitats for all of the animals who live there. So that's not vegan friendly either. So it's really a catch-22 in that respect. But they did find that if you were closer to vegan, so like if you ate mostly fruits and vegetables and grains and a smattering of meat, you know, like that is the best, most sustainable way to go about doing it for the population. And I think that's probably the best for our diets too, generally speaking.
And on that note, I'm just going to let Mayank go because we're just about wrapping up. Mayank, go for it.
I'm going to give the closing arguments. Okay, so here's the thing. I think, first of all, I'm vegetarian. I don't know nothing about meat. I've never had meat since birth. So I don't know much about the meat industry, but this is what I want to say about even like healthy eating and you know, like buying organic and stuff. In my career as a coach, I think when people pay too much attention to the details of, you know, I want to buy this organic apple, I want to go to Whole Foods, because we have 3 stages. We have the stage where people eat shit. Then we have the stage where people go from like that garbage food to fruits and vegetables. And then we have these fancy people who go from fruits and vegetables to organic fruits and vegetables and to the Whole Foods and the Amazon, all that stuff. And for example, me, I take care of my health all the time. I'm in shape 365 days a year. And I do not care too much about the origin and whether it's organic or not personally, because I know what's good is I know what not to eat. I don't care about what I have to eat. I do know that what not to eat, which is processed food, sugar, you know, all the like pop and stuff. So I eat my fruits, veggies, milk, eggs, and all that I have to, and that's all about it. And that's what I teach people. Although I'm not going to deny that that yes, there's something wrong with the whole industry, the way they use fertilizers and the way they grow stuff. But again, if you have a messed up mind, no diet can help you. You know, like this has to be better before any fruit, any veggie, any meat, any meal can help you. I know people who eat exotic, best fruits and veggies and meals, and they never get in shape. But I also know people who eat normal and they look like gladiators. It's still a mental game more than
right.
Oh yeah, and that's why I always say too, like eat as organic as you can, because not everybody can. First of all, it might not even be available, and there's also a little bit of a racket in that whole industry too. Like you have to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to just register as an organic purveyor of anything. So there's a lot of people or farmers who can't register as organic, you know, simply because of that. Like it's too expensive to pay for the certification as the farmer wouldn't make any money. So, you know, I have a friend who is, you know, an acupuncturist and specializes in Chinese medicine. And she was like, you know, what my teachers always told me was to follow the chi of whatever it is that you're going to consume. Like if you have an organic apple and a conventional apple in your hand, and the organic apple has like bad chi, like it doesn't look very good and it doesn't smell very good or whatever, then eat the conventional apple. It has more energy in it, has more chi in it. So I think like, yeah, like, you know, figure out what works best for you, figure out what works best, you know, for your clients, and every person is different. I always say like every body is different and every body is different every single day. Like your body is not the same today as it was yesterday, you know, like, and oftentimes I say this in the context of stretching, because, you know, like you do something or you sit a funny way or something like that, and you could touch your toes yesterday, but today after some like really hard workout, you can't touch your toes or whatever, but tomorrow you'll be able to touch your toes. So, you know, like I think there's always room for the unknown, and there's always room for, doing what seems best for you in the moment, like guided by your intuition, rather than like what somebody says has to be correct or true or right or whatever. And
Right.
you know, and I think that that's great that you're following your body's intuition, that, you know, like you're eating what feels good in you. And I think that is the most important thing. And that is so hugely mindset related. And that's what I touched on earlier today. It's like, you know, how do you feel when you eat the food? Is it making you feel good, energized? And are you, like, for yourself, like you're getting the physical results that you want?
There
You
you
know,
go.
like that's what's
And
the most important.
And on that note, I'm going to say that's great. Just be conscious of how it makes you feel, not so caught up on everything, because, you know, it's very, like, you know, you say it's very interesting. Like you could be really caught up on something and then you could be doing a whole pile of other things on the other side. So on that note, it is 2:00. I'm going to thank you so much for Courtney for sharing this time with us today. I really appreciated it. And I'm sure that our guests probably got some nuggets to take out of there. So that was awesome. In the chat, just so you know, on December 7th, I'm going to share, we've got a online holiday mix and mingle. So it's going to be online so we can connect with people, whoever would like to come. There's a link. Everybody's welcome. It's going to be about an hour and 45 minutes, 2-hour event. We're going to talk about reflecting, goal setting, moving into 2023. I love doing this little event here because it really gets you in the right mind. And especially with, you know, the holiday season right around the corner, everybody's off in crazy land there. So this takes you some time. Come back, connect with the entrepreneurs. Let's chat together and see how we can really impact in 2023. And on that note, I will let you all go. And thanks again, Courtney, for joining us. Really appreciated you taking the time. And thank you to all our guests for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Take good care of yourself.